What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by only one Titan this week. The other Titan, spoiler alert, Jurg, is out because he's still suffering from his Super Bowl hangover. That's right, he was celebrating too hard because the Chiefs won. Therefore, he's out, for the entire week, actually. So we're going to be recording without him. I am stuck with Dame this week. Dame, how are we?
I'm doing very good after Super Bowl, actually. Won a lot of money. The team that I rooted for won. Other than that, I'm doing great.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I was very happy after the Super Bowl ended because the team who I wanted to win won. Similar to you, I didn't win any money. I didn't bet because I'm not a degenerate, but you won money, so that's all good. Makes the whole podcast happy. But neither here nor there. We are going to be talking about the Super Bowl. We will be reviewing the game, what stood out to us, certain calls, this and that. Where Mahomes stands legacy wise now going forward, now that he has two rings. All that nonsense, all that good junk. Maybe where do the Eagles go going forward? Jalen Hurts. I know his contract situation is a topic of debate. Maybe we'll talk about that as well. But yeah, we're also going to talk about Jalen Hurts and how he stepped up to the plate in the biggest game of his life. And then, of course, I think we're going to be talking about a little bit of Derek Carr, some small news in that front, as he is now, I believe he was released from his contract name, right?
Yes.
Okay. So he is a free agent. And yeah, I don't know when he will be making his decision. I know he has a couple meetings lined up. I know he's already talked to the Saints. I'm pretty sure the Jets are interested. And I'm sure a lot of other teams are because there's a lot of empty quarterback positions throughout the NFL. So we will be talking about where Derek Carr's future lies ahead. But we're going to start off with the Super Bowl. Dame, you did anything special for the Super Bowl this year?
Just went to Manny's house, regular shit every year. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it was so much food. That was the best part.
What kind of food did you have?
Literally everything.
Nice. All right. Okay. So yeah, Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Philadelphia Eagles, 38-35. Yeah. So let's go straight into it. Patrick Mahomes, 21 for 27, 182 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So Jalen Hurts, 27 for 38, 304 yards, one passing touchdown, 3 rushing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Yeah, but the Chiefs won 38-35. The quarterback play in this game was just outstanding, I would say. Very evenly matched. I think statistically, Hurts had a better Super Bowl. I just think it's so hard for me because like when people say Hurts outplayed Mahomes, I'm like I don't know if you could say that. I know stats wise it seems like that, but like situationally, I think Mahomes thrived, and he's been there before, so he kind of like understands. And I think a lot of it was Andy Reid, but a lot of it was, when you see that Patrick Mahomes had only 182 yards, I think it's shocking. But like a lot of his passes were like kind of there was like a lot of times where they were near the end zone and then he just executed from there from a short distance. So I think that might be a little bit misconstrued, but don't let the 182 yards take away from the brilliance of Patrick Mahomes here. Mahomes showed up. The second half, I believe there was only one incompletion on his end. He was like 16 for 17. But before we get to the second half, let's talk about the first half. Philadelphia dominated this first half. The game started off hot. Philadelphia scored. Chiefs responded right back. Chiefs got the stop. They failed to score, and then the Eagles kind of took over. And then I believe Jalen Hurts fumbled the ball. Wasn't anything crazy. I think the ball just slipped out of his hands. Chiefs tied it, and we're just like, oh shit. Okay, we got a game. We definitely got a game. And finally, we have like a game in the Super Bowl that's just gonna be back and forth. And then the Eagles kind of took over, man, and they kept the Chiefs off the field, bro. So in the first half, I believe they were up 10 points. I know they're up 10 points, but it was like 27-17, was it?
I
Might
think
have
it was
been.
24-14.
Yeah, you might be right, Dame. I think it was 24-14. So after the first half, it was 24-14. But there was a play in which Mahomes re-aggravated his ankle injury, and then when he re-aggravated it, bro, the Chiefs never got back on the field. Like the Eagles just kept them off, kept the play going on for like hours, and then halftime came. Dude, Mahomes was like out for 40 minutes after that ankle injury. Like he wasn't playing at all. Maybe that helped him actually in the long run, but yeah, that was like the main story of like the first half. The Eagles just kept the Chiefs off the field, and I think, to be honest, if you're gonna beat the Chiefs, that's how you do it. That is how you do it. But yeah, it was Eagles' dominance in the first half. Second half comes, and the Chiefs respond right back. They deferred in the first half. They get the ball back in the second half. They score right away, and they just took over in that second half. They took over. They eventually took the lead 28-27, and then they scored again. It was 30, what was it, 35-27? Yeah. And then, you know, shout out to Jalen Hurts. He willed them back. He willed the Eagles back. They tie it up. And then, of course, we'll get to it, but eventually it ended up being 38-35 on I guess, a game-winning field goal. But second half, Andy Reid brilliance was on display. The play calling was sensational. Mahomes on like one foot, just with every fiber of his being. How many yards was it? The infamous play in which he ran? Do you remember how many yards it was again?
It might have been like 20 something in the
25,
20s.
I think. That's what I think I remember reading, like 25. He runs for 25 yards on that bummed ankle, and he was just brilliant. Again, 16 for 17. That's a near perfect half. That's a near perfect half. Um, the Chiefs, they did what they always did. I mean, I get the passing game was just brilliance. Um, for the Eagles, I would say their passing game was great. I think AJ Brown stepped up. I think Devontae Smith stepped up. Dallas Goedert stepped up. Their defense didn't, though, and that was the most surprising thing because I think we all expected the Eagles' defense to show up primarily. They didn't, man. And I got to give credit to the Chiefs' O-line because they allowed 0 sacks, which is very impressive, especially because of how universally praised the Eagles' defense was all year. It was just what a brilliant second half. It was just Andy Reid was on one with the play calling. Because you knew Travis Kelce was gonna get his, but like everyone was kind of eating. Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore, Pacheco, everyone was kind of involved in that offense. Kadarius Toney, man, like I think this is why Tyreek Hill leaving was kind of a blessing in disguise for Mahomes because it's not just like, okay, we need a big play, I'm just gonna throw it up to Tyreek Hill. Now it's short passes, bro. It's not just like bombs away. And I get that's why we love Mahomes, but I do think like the absence of Tyreek Hill has helped him mature, especially in these type of moments. And who knows, man? If Tyreek Hill was there, maybe he'd have more picks, just because like the defense would have been focused on him, and he would have wanted the bombs away type of play, the home run play. And he was just so calm and collected. And I think it's the maturation of Mahomes over the years. You saw it in this Super Bowl. Like he's been a three now. First one, it was a good performance, not in my opinion. The defense did fluster him a bit, but he did get the job done and ultimately had a good performance, I think. The second performance, I think they just got blown out, so he couldn't really do anything there. And then this one, I think, is the culmination of like his experience and what his perspective so far, and just the adjustments he's made. So shout out to Mahomes. Let's get to that call. Let's get to that call. No, well, actually, before we get to the call, Jalen Hurts, spectacular, bro. I think we all had our questions about how he'd perform on this stage. He's only gone against in this playoff so far Daniel Jones and whatever the shit San Francisco was throwing out there in that NFC Championship game. It's just like now you're going against Patrick Mahomes. You're going against the Chiefs now, right? The Niners are a good team, but they didn't have a quarterback. Now you have the best quarterback in the NFL. How are you going to play up against him? And he stood toe to toe against him. He stood toe to toe against him. He was phenomenal. He was brilliant. He willed the Eagles he willed them completely towards the end. They stood a chance because of him. Because the defense didn't show up, and Jalen Hurts just willed his way. He literally made it a close game by himself. And you got to give credit because I think AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, that Philadelphia offense was eating up the Chiefs defense, bro, in the first half especially. It was rough. We could talk about the conditions they were playing in because that field sucked, but like Jalen Hurts, man, the fact that like you kind of it's and it was crazy because these two are the finalists for the actual MVP award, the regular season MVP award, but stood toe to toe with Mahomes, neck and neck. Some people thought he outplayed him. I thought he was just on par with him. It was phenomenal performance from him. Eagles have their quarterback of the future. Okay, let's talk about that play that everyone seems to be complaining about, Dame. So I believe it was James Bradbury, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't. It was 3rd and 8. The Chiefs were easily in field goal range. I don't remember how many yards. It might have been 20 or 25 from the end zone. So Juju Smith-Schuster gets his jersey grabbed initially, and then he gets held slightly by James Bradbury, and Mahomes throws it up. I think Mahomes threw it up because he knew there was a flag coming. I think that's my theory. Because it was like it didn't seem catchable. And a lot of people need to learn the rules, Dame, because a lot of people were just like, well, it wasn't catchable anyway. Guys, it's a holding. It's not pass interference. It doesn't have to be catchable if it's defensive holding. LeBron, but yeah, that happens. They call, they throw the flag after the play. Everyone's moaning and complaining. And they're just like, oh, it's soft. You can't call that. So here's what I have to say about it. So I think the discussion, Dame, what kind of ended after James Bradbury literally admitted that he held him after the game, and I was like, okay, I mean, this is over then if he's admitting that he held him. So like, what are we discussing? I think it was the right call. I believe it was the right call. He did hold him, and a lot of people think it was. A lot of people seem to like forget about the jersey pull in the beginning of that play, and then they kind of go right after that where he was slightly holding him. They're just like, oh, it's soft, but he did pull his jersey, and I think it was the right call. I think a lot of people know it was the right call. I do think what people are upset about is that the refs were kind of letting them play throughout the entire game. And the fact that they called it towards the end, they're just like, oh, come on, bro. You got to be consistent. You got to be calling these calls like from the beginning if you're going to call that one. It's that. And I also think it's just like the timing of it. I think because it's at the end, the game was so back and forth. The pacing was awesome. And then at the end, there's a flag, and then it could just kind of like it all but guarantees the W for the Chiefs. I think it was towards the end. The fact that it kind of ruined the pacing of the game, that's why people were upset at it. I don't think people thought it was the wrong call, but they're just like, oh, come on, man, not now. But like I think because Juju also got held earlier in the game. For me, I think it was the placement of this on the field because I think Juju got held in the middle of the field, right? This one where he got held by towards the end by James Bradbury, I think it was more apparent from the ref's perspective because I think he had more of a clear view because I think it was on the left side of the field and it was more towards the outside. So I think the ref had a better view of that. That's just like my 2 cents on it, but a lot of people were complaining about it. I thought it was the right call. Like, are we just gonna like let every call go, or especially if the refs have a clear perspective of it? I know people want to say, "Oh, the refs are rigging it for the Chiefs." Guys, come on now. I mean, you can think that all you want, but it was the right call, in my opinion. Is there some bias for me because like I wanted the Chiefs to win? Sure, but I do think it was the right call, even if it was slight. Because like if they don't call it, then we're gonna be looking at the replay and just saying to ourselves, "Well, they should have called it because that was a hold." I think it's a very like, you know, it's an LL either way. I think Chiefs fans would have been furious if they didn't call that call, and Eagles fans are furious because they did call that call. So either way, someone would have been furious. I'm just glad that it went in the Chiefs' favor. I don't think people are talking about McKinnon's decision. Like people think like the game was over right after that flag was like thrown. So McKinnon stopped right before he scored the touchdown, went down intentionally, and that all but guaranteed the victory for the Chiefs because that allows them to go to fourth down, let the time go all the way down until until the field goal attempt. Thank God Butker made it. I was a little scared. I think there was 8 seconds left. And then, of course, Jalen Hurts tried to throw a Hail Mary. Nothing. Chiefs win it. Patrick Mahomes has 2 rings now. What a game. It was a phenomenal game. I like the result. Chiefs won. Mahomes won. He's the king of the NFL. Again, like I said, 2 rings. I think we've established a couple things here. We're about to be in the midst of a dynasty with the Chiefs. Mahomes 2 rings. It's his NFL. It's his league. He is the best quarterback in the world. A lot of people are very behind him. There's a huge gap behind him. Jalen Hurts is a solidified top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. The fact that he showed up the way he did definitely earned a contract with the Eagles. I think they should pay him. And, legacy wise for Mahomes, I mean, like, he was already All of Famer in our eyes. Where he stands all time, I mean, look, I think I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm going to give you a hot take because I think he's up there. I think he's so up there, man. He's the most talented quarterback we've ever seen. I know Brady's ahead of him. I know you got the Joe Montana, but I would put him three right now. I'd put him three. I know other people think that might be a little too high and that he still has ways to go, but I mean, the trajectory is already there. I mean, come on, bro. He is just amazing to watch. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Dane, before you go, I'm going to read Jurg's thoughts because he did send his thoughts. This is Jurg's Super Bowl analysis. Quote, best game we've seen in a long time from start to finish. Eagles held the ball majority of the first half. That's the way to limit Mahomes in the offense, but that fumble for a touchdown cost them what would have been a larger lead. Second half saw a bunch of guys step up for Kansas City. Pacheco and McKinnon were valuable. Tony and Moore each with a touchdown. Eagles defense couldn't get the stops when they needed. 0 sacks, 0 interceptions was the big difference on the holding call. It doesn't take away from the Chiefs' win, but warrants criticism from this perspective. The refs called the game a certain way the whole time. They actually let them play, which was nice. So for them to make that call in that moment goes against how those guys played the previous 58 minutes, which is not something that should be overlooked. Juju wasn't impeded on that play. A hold should at least look like it affected the receiver's ability to change direction or accelerate, and neither was the case. He wouldn't have gone to the ball. Overall, Chiefs likely still would have won, but for the refs to call that, and at least in the short term, that's what most people remember. That's what people will remember the most. That and the field is inexcusable by the NFL. That being said, congrats, Chiefs and Mahomes. He's now entered all-time convo easily. I'd already make him top 10 all-time QB. He says fight me in parentheses, but I don't think that's a fighting response, a fighting take. Um, Dame, I don't know about, so I saw this video on IG actually, because when Jurg talked about the holding affecting Juju's like stance and his ability to like get to his spot. There was this. Hold on, I'm trying to find the video because I saw on Instagram where some guy analyzed it and he said he actually did. I'm gonna read it right now. He talks about because he's inside, he reaches and pins Smith-Schuster's hip and takes half a step away, allowing him to stay closer enough to Juju Smith-Schuster, and then 1 or 2 steps after that, he suddenly grabs Smith-Schuster's jersey, again taking another half or quarter step away. It's a foul. It was called correctly. So that was what the rules analyst said. Now, could be nitpicking, but again, at the end of the day, I do think it was the right call. I just think because of the timing of it, it was looked down upon. So, Dame, I've yapped enough. Talk to me. What do you think of the Super Bowl? Everything that I talked about.
So overall, I think it was one of the best Super Bowls I've watched in a while. I can't remember the last one where I was like better than this one. Um, Everything that Eagles needed to do, in my opinion, to win the game, they did. Whether it was running the ball or time of possession, the way you beat the Chiefs in general is you run the ball and you keep the ball away from them, and that's exactly what the Eagles did. And every time they kept the ball, they went down and scored points, and it looked like the perfect recipe for them to win the game. Until the second half came, where I mean, the Chiefs' offense and Patrick Mahomes are basically perfect. They had no sacks, no penalties, and one incompletion was a throwaway in the second half, which is literally amazing and something you just don't see regularly. But Jalen Hurts was phenomenal. Like you said, 3 rushing touchdowns, a passing touchdown. He had no picks, although that fumble was huge, huge. It was a huge turnover. It wasn't even forced. It wasn't like someone made a defensive player made a great play that like punched it out from behind or whatever the case may be. He lost it and fumbled it when he was trying to exchange it from one hand to another. So it was kind of self-inflicted wound right there where he just gave the ball away. And, of course, they pick it up and run for a touchdown, which made it even worse. So I don't think either QB – outside of that, I don't think any QB really made a huge mistake. That's why this game was so good because you literally had the two best teams all season long meeting the Super Bowl and they played exactly how they've been playing all year. It's not like one of the teams had a down game or whatever the case may be. So it was so fun to watch. It sucks that Jalen Hurts had that one mistake because it maybe kind of downplays how great he did play all game because you could argue he played better than Patrick Mahomes. I won't go that far because I think Patrick Mahomes just didn't have the ball enough to have the great numbers that Jalen Hurts had. And of course, Jalen Hurts had that one like 50-yard bomb to AJ Brown, which kind of boosted his numbers as well. And he had those 1 yard touchdowns too. But the times that Patrick Mahomes had the ball, I mean, he was super effective. What was it, like 21 for 27 with 3 touchdowns? Like, he got the job done when he had the ball. And of course, he re-aggravated that ankle too. And then he went into the second half and had that spectacular second half. Um, it's hard when you have to sit on the sideline and the other team is on offense for 45 minutes and you have to sit there for so long. And then you get back out there and you're not really in a rhythm. And that's what the Chiefs had to deal with for most of the first half. And credit to them, they kept themselves in the ball game. They went to halftime, everybody regrouped, and they came out and they were spectacular. So big props to them. Patrick Mahomes, although numbers, like I said, weren't great, I think he's played spectacular. He was the best player on the field, well deserving of the MVP. Andy Reid, I mean, he's arguably one of the best coaches. Not arguably, he is one of the best coaches of all time and nearing that top three status at this point. 2 Super Bowls already. He made multiple Super Bowls with the Eagles. He made a couple Super Bowls with the Eagles as well. So he has, I think he's second all time in playoff wins too. Like the guy is just spectacular. 2 touchdowns to Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney were amazing. They were completely wide open, and that has nothing to do with Mahomes. That has to do with Andy Reid. So that's spectacular too. As for the Eagles, they played their best game, and it just wasn't enough because Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were just better. And it was I guess a trending theme throughout the entire season that the Eagles just aren't the same team in the second half as they are in the first half. And I guess that kind of followed through because they weren't as good in the second half as they were in the first half. But that little drop off, it was a tiny drop off, but that tiny drop off was enough for the Chiefs to overcome and win that ball game. When we come down to that holding call, I do agree it was a holding call. Juju, like you mentioned, did get held previously in the game as well, and it was a big moment too. I think it was a third down to convert, going over midfield, and I think the Chiefs had to punt at the end of that drive, but they missed that call, but they didn't miss this one. Although it was uncatchable, like you said, it was holding, not pass interference, and I think if he didn't hold him and he was able to kind of break off that route clean, he might have had a chance to catch it, and then they would have scored a touchdown, which would be even harder to overcome. But I think they would take a holding call and take time off the clock instead of getting a touchdown and leaving more time on the clock for the Eagles. But man, overall, this game was spectacular. It was a great game to watch, back and forth. The great players showed out, and that's what I love to see in big games. Is not only both teams being matched up well, I love to see great players from both sides play great. And Patrick Mahomes played great. Jalen Hurts played great. AJ Brown played great. Travis Kelce played great. Everybody played great, and I think that's what was the making of a great Super Bowl like that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely an instant classic. Dame, Mahomes legacy, all time rankings. How
I
high
would
you
put him.
willing?
I would put him third at this point.
So you would put him
Yeah.
behind Brady and Montana.
Yes, because it's first 5 seasons, and I get it. If he retired today, like that's what the argument is, right? So if he retired today and never played football again, he has 2 MVPs. This one should have been unanimous. He has 2 Super Bowl wins, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 3 Super Bowl appearances. He's been in the AFC Championship for 5 years. That's a lot more than most guys can say. It's more than Aaron Rodgers could say, more than Peyton Manning could say, more than Dan Marino could say, more than a lot of these guys can say. And on top of that, he's by far the most talented quarterback. But that's not obviously not the debate is, but that has something to do with where he goes on the all-time rankings. He has a long way to go, I think, to even Joe Montana at 2, in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
But I think he definitely is at that 3. If you want to argue Peyton Manning, that's fine because Peyton Manning does have 5 MVPs. But at the very worst, I would put him at 4. But I personally think he's 3 because of the standpoint that he is the most talented quarterback we've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, I talk to some people about this, man. I said when it's all said and done, at the very least, he needs to have 3 rings. He needs to, and it's been a while. It's been what would have been if they lost this year, that would have been 3 years since his first Super Bowl win, and
Yeah.
the pressure would have been on him because they're just like, all right, bro, we need to start racking championships because of, like the standard we hold for him. But he beat the Aaron Rodgers allegations. He has two now. Pressure's a little bit off. He has breathing room now, and he definitely has breathing room considerably from the other quarterbacks in the NFL. They know it. They have to go through him. It's crazy. It's crazy how big the gap is. But he has two right now. I mean, what's telling me that he can't win three next year? I mean, they're gonna get better. They're gonna make more draft picks, and who knows? Maybe if they maybe they go for maybe they trade for like a star receiver, get another weapon in there, or maybe they trade for like another defensive star. Who knows? Chiefs are in the driver's seat right now, and dudes are just playing catch up. They're playing catch up. So, congrats to the Chiefs. Eagles, they'll be back. I think the NFC is wide open right now,
Imagine
and
making the Super Bowl and losing the Super Bowl and having the 10th pick in the draft. That's what the Eagles
yeah,
have.
I wish I had that luxury. I wish the Jets had that luxury, but alas, they don't. But yeah, to me, they're the dogs of the NFC. To me, they're the best team in the NFC East. They right now they're the favorites to come out of the NFC for me. I know certain teams will be better. I think the only team that like when healthy is such like a capital W and a capital H and one healthy, but the 49ers when healthy are the only team I think that could compete with them. I know there's people want to say, there's the Cowboys and this and that, and
Who knows what the 49ers like quarterback
that
situation?
is that is true.
Purdy's out for the entire year.
Yeah, you don't know. You know what, bro? I'm bullish on the Lions. I'm not saying they're gonna go far, but like you know what? I think the Lions are on the come up. I think they're on the come up. But again, the Rams will be healthier. But again, the Rams looked when they were healthy this season, they didn't look too good. So we'll see how they do in the offseason. But Eagles, I know it was a frustrating loss, but you'll be back soon. I think if the Bengals could do it, if the Bengals could get far, a year after they made the Super Bowl, I think you guys can too, especially in a weaker conference. So. Yeah, what a Super Bowl, man. What a Super Bowl. Any predictions for next year? I know it's super early in the offseason started, but um, any predictions on like maybe other teams? I guess threats to the Chiefs. I saw first things first do this, but any possible threats to the Chiefs and possible threats to the Eagles besides the 49ers for the NFC?
As of right now, how it stands, without knowing what's going to happen in the
Mm-hmm.
offseason,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ride with the Bengals as the biggest threat to the Chiefs, just because I just haven't seen enough from Josh Allen, and what I have seen is inconsistency. And I don't think the Jaguars are there yet. I think adding Calvin Ridley is definitely going to be a big help, firepower wise, offensively wise. But I don't think they'll be ready yet. But I think the Bengals they play the Chiefs so well each and every single matchup they have that at any point in time they could beat them. So I'm going to go with the Bengals on the Chiefs side. As for the Eagles outside of Niners, um, I might have to go with the Cowboys honestly,
Come on.
just because of how bad the NFC is, bro. Like, there's no one in the NFC North. I mean, Rodgers is leaving or retiring. There's gonna be no one there. You're not trusting the Vikings. And the West is just the Niners, but we said without the Niners. I don't trust the Seahawks. Geno Smith might have been a 1 year wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Cardinals, Kyle Murray's out for half the year. Who else is in that division? The Rams,
The
like you
Rams.
mentioned, when they were healthy, they didn't look good this year. So I don't know how much I could trust that. And I mean, the NFC South is literally quite possibly could be the worst division we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think by default you have to go with the Cowboys.
That is a good point. I didn't think of it like that, but yeah. No Lions love, Dame.
I like the Lions, but like, are they a threat to the Eagles? No,
Oh,
I don't
sure,
think
for sure, for sure.
I would love the Lions. Like, I play with them in Madden and try to rebuild them myself. They're a fun young team with a lot of assets. I think they could definitely sneak into the playoffs next year. I might even predict that they will. But as for the Eagles, matching up with them, I just feel like the Eagles might be better at every single possible position.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, man, NFC needs to get their shit together because it's a death zone in the AFC. Yeah, I would say Bengals probably the biggest threat. I think I'm a little bit higher on the Jaguars than most people, just because I think how the good they looked without Calvin Ridley. Like they have a solid. You have your franchise quarterback in Lawrence. You have Travis Etienne as your RB1, And then I think they have a solid wide receiver 1 to 3. Kirk and Ridley could be interchangeable for who's one. I do think it could be Ridley because I think he's better than Kirk, but that's a good problem to have. And then you have Zay Jones as your third wide receiver. So I think they're going to be good. Again, you're right. The Bills are going to be. I mean, they're going to have Von Miller back, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, look, Josh Allen. We always said Mahomes is his kryptonite, but now he's got another one in Joe Burrow, and they have some stuff to figure out. Their O line needs help. Ravens, I don't know what's going to happen. Who knows what's going to happen with Tua for the Dolphins? If Aaron Rodgers comes to the AFC, I wonder. I'm not going to say the Jets, bro. I'm not doing that to myself. But yeah, if Aaron Rodgers comes to the AFC, that's like another team that, because I'm assuming he'd go to a team and instantly make them a good team, which would put them kind of like in that echelon, I feel like. Um, but yeah, it's up in the air. But I would say, yeah, it's the Bengals and the 49ers are the clear cut, threats to the Chiefs and the Eagles in their respective conferences. But that'll do it for Super Bowl recap. What a game. It was memorable in numerous ways. It caps off what was a relatively, I would say, decent NFL season. It wasn't the best. I think last year was a lot better, but yeah, this Super Bowl closes the lid on a pretty okay NFL season. I'm just glad it was a good game. I'm glad it was a fun game because the playoffs before this year's playoffs were kind of meh. So the fact that we kind of got a really fun and really entertaining last game, hugely successful, and I'm very satisfied, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are. But that'll do it for Super Bowl talk. We move on over to our last bit of news. Derek Carr, like we said, is a free agent now. There are rumors up the wazoo in which team he will go to. So he is gone from the Raiders. Dame, there's a lot of chit chat. I mean, he met up with the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are in need of a quarterback. I'm sorry, Jameis Winston, but no. Um, the Jets are in there. The Jets are in need of a quarterback. Off rib Dame, I think the Tampa Bay Bucks are in need of a quarterback, and
The
I don't want.
Panthers are in on him. The Saints, the Jets, the Saints. I think there was a report that them and the Raiders had agreed on a trade, like the
He didn't want.
compensation on the trade, but he didn't want to get traded.
So yeah, I think that might be. So that's kind of a power move because I think he just wanted to like kind of decide his own destiny, his own fate. So shout out to Derek Carr for making that decision. But I mean, the 49ers need a quarterback, bro. Like Purdy's gonna be out for a bit, and you don't know how he's gonna be after that injury. They seem to be done with Jimmy G. You don't know how Trey Lance is gonna be. Um, I'm trying to think. Like there's a bunch of like the thing is with the Panthers, bro, is that they need a quarterback, but like I feel like they'd be better off with a younger QB. But then again, maybe they think they're in win now mode because Brady's gone and they were about to make the playoffs this past season. So they're just like, why not just get Derek Carr? I don't know. I personally wouldn't, but
That division is so wide open that like I don't
yeah,
think as a
that's a
team,
that's a guaranteed playoff spot.
yeah, exactly. If you bring in a veteran quarterback that could win now, you're basically guaranteeing yourself a playoff spot because of how bad that division is. And with a guy like Frank Reich coming in there to be a head coach, like he's had so many god awful QBs in Indianapolis that are like I don't know if he wants to go through kind of molding and rebuilding QB. I think if he could get Derek Carr in there, I think he'll be satisfied.
Yeah, for sure. But I think there's so many. What an off season is going to be. There's going to be so much movement. I don't know, man. Well, I mean, look, as Jets fans, we're in such a pickle, bro, because like I hate the options that could be before us. So the Jets seem to have hired like personnel that have ties to possibly available quarterbacks. So I think it was Nathaniel Hackett for Aaron.
I hate when just to say I hate when teams do that, and of
I'm
course
with
it's
you
my
100.
team
percent
doing it.
I'm with you
Like
100%.
like you should be bringing in coaches that fit your scheme and the players you have on the roster now, not to try to recruit other quarterbacks that have ties to other quarterbacks. Like they literally brought in Hackett with Rodgers.
Hmm.
They brought in their who was it for their like offensive line coach, the
The
guy that was on
Titans,
the
the Titan.
Titans,
Yeah,
and then their quarterback coach that had ties with Derek Carr and Ryan Tannehill. Like, bro, go in one direction that your team is built for now. And if you bring another quarterback, have that quarterback kind of adjust to that, or your coordinator work with the quarterback to adjust together. Don't be bringing in guys that you are gonna assume are gonna work with the quarterback because they worked with them in the past. Like, I just hate that way of hiring coaches.
I'm with you on that. I think it was the Titans running back coach.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to know what the difference is between the Jets and the Titans? The Titans have Derrick Henry.
and we don't, and they
We
have a
have
good
and
offensive line, and we
no,
don't.
we don't. We could have a good offensive line, but dudes just. I don't know. Dane wants to get into beefs on Twitter with certain offensive line members of the Jets.
It's
We
not
won't.
my
We won't.
it's not my fault he can't stay healthy. Like you can't get mad at me for you not being healthy. So I don't care.
He really responded to you though. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and then I
Hey,
had
look.
a billion fans come at me. So
You know what, Dame? If he turns his career around and he gets healthier, I'm
I
gonna
want a
credit
full
you.
credit. I want
Yeah,
3% of his contract.
3% of his contract. What I mean, it's pretty decent. But I'm gonna give you full credit if he does turn around. So I mean, yeah, Mekhi Becton is who we're talking about. To all the listeners listening. But yeah, I mean, Dame, give me your predictions on which team you think Derek Carr will sign to, and who you think would be best suited for Derek Carr.
So I'll go with the same team for both answers.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the Saints. Reason being is because obviously they agreed with that draft conversation, and to me that means that when they met with Derek Carr, they liked him enough that they were like, okay, we're gonna go out and we're gonna trade for him, knowing that it was a very high possibility that he could just get released and you could sign him without giving up any draft picks. But they liked him so much, and they felt like he was such a fit there that they were willing to give up draft picks to ensure that he would come there. So that's why I'll go with that. I think out of all the teams that are available, they have the most weapons as well, from Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, an incredible offensive line, a great defense there too. Playing in New Orleans in that dome is great too. So just all those aspects, I don't think any other teams offers that. The Jets, I guess I put second on that list because of how much promise they showed last year from having Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson and a top five defense. But I just think the Saints overall, from top to bottom, and just having more veteran players, and that's what Derek Carr is. Also, he's a veteran. He's not a guy that is like super young and developing or whatever case may be. He's ready to win now, and he's a veteran, and he'll mesh perfectly with those guys in New Orleans. So I think I'm gonna go with the Saints. And a big reason, like you mentioned so many times already, is how bad that division is, and it's really for the taking. With the Jets, you have to deal with the Dolphins and the Bills, and then in the AFC, you have to deal with Mahomes and Joe Burrow. You go to the Saints, you basically, as long as you're not absolute garbage, you're gonna win that division. And then who knows in the playoffs? Like we went through it. Who's really a challenger to the Eagles? Like if you go out there and play good ball, you have a good defense, you have skill guys on the offensive side of the football. There's a good chance that you can kind of make noise and make yourself a dangerous team. So I just think Derek Carr with the Saints, I think, is a great option.
Yeah, yeah. I think he'll also go to the Saints. I like that he's keeping his options open. Yeah. So they offer a bunch more. Like he had weapons on the Raiders. Don't get me wrong, but the Raiders was just a shit show. Ass offensive line. Defense was meh. The defense was meh, right? I know they had Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, but how was the Raiders defense last
Their
season?
secondary was just god awful. That like they were able to create pressure, but like if your cornerbacks are getting cooked in point 0.5 seconds, you can't really get a sack. You know,
That is
they
true,
weren't as bad as they were in past years, but they still weren't a good defense.
right? Yeah, and I don't know. The whole Josh McDaniels thing was a failed experiment, in my opinion. It just didn't work, and I'm so surprised because I was kind of bullish on them because you had Devonte Adams. I mean, you had Devonte Adams, right? And like that's your best friend, and you had Darren Waller and Renfro. Like they had so many pieces, they had so many weapons, and I can't believe they didn't make it work. But yeah, and then the Jets offer, a good defense. I do think they have pretty decent weapons. I think Derek Carr could make them better weapons than what quarterback they had. So I think he would vibe well with Coach Sala too. So you have that as well. The issue is if you go to the Saints, I think you're guaranteed a playoff spot. If you go to the Saints, you have a better chance of making the playoffs as opposed to the Jets, who are in a more of a death conference. I mean, if you go to the Saints, there's a lot of enticing factors to it. But other than that, I mean, you have the maybe he swerves us, bro. Maybe he goes to the Bucks. Maybe he goes to the Tampa Bay Bucks. I mean, they're not going to try to rebuild. You have Mike Evans in them, right? You can't really rebuild. I don't know what's gonna happen with the Bucks. They're kind of a wild card of a team, but you have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. That's a team that's ready to win now. So that's another team that if you go, it's so weird because those two teams in the same division. I don't know. I think if he goes to any team in that division, I think they're probably in the driver's seat to make the playoffs, which is what at the very least four. Um, but yeah, who knows what's gonna happen? Final prediction. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna agree with you, bro. He goes to the Saints. He definitely goes to the New Orleans Saints. Maybe he services and goes somewhere else, but I think he'll be the first domino to fall in this QB carousel. And then, of course, you have the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, which I don't even want to comment on that. That
What
dude
I,
is
just to throw in something quickly, I think what hurts the Jets' chances of Derek Carr is I think they're fully into waiting on Aaron Rodgers. And I just
yeah.
think that the Derek Carr decision will come sooner than that, and that the Jets won't be fully invested into trying to make Derek Carr happen until they know what's going to happen to Aaron Rodgers. And I think that would what might personally fuck him up. But I personally don't care. I don't think Derek Carr is that good, and I'm okay with kind of passing on him.
The Jets are playing with thin ice. They're playing with fire right now because I just dude. I mean, look, our options. I mean, look, if we get Aaron Rodgers, like, fine, whatever, right? Obviously, it's just I'm not gonna be crazy sad because it is Aaron Rodgers at the end of the day. I don't want Ryan Tannehill, bro. I don't want Jimmy G. Like, come on, bro. I know it's an improvement from what we had, but the bar is so low. Like, that's not saying much. But like Derek Carr, I think fine, whatever. But I mean, if you get Aaron Rodgers, you get Aaron Rodgers. Like, you're instantly a good team in my opinion. And I do think they have the weapons to like make it kind of work. But again, that man didn't even win with Devontae Adams. So I don't know. It's pretty rough being a Jets fan. Sauce Gardner doesn't know this, but he has made my life 3% better by just existing. By just existing. So Sauce, shout out to you, man. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think we got anything else. That will do it. I think this is yeah, the NFL season, the 2022-23 season has come and gone for the NFL. It was fun doing these episodes discussing football. Obviously the offseason is going to be arriving shortly and we'll have a bunch of things to talk about because there's going to be a lot of moves, a lot of movement. I mean, last year's offseason was crazy, bro. A bunch of QBs will be moving. You have DeAndre Hopkins as well. So much stuff is going to happen. Then we have the NFL draft. We will be doing our NFL mock draft. So obviously not the last time we talk about the NFL, but it was for now. Before we go on a hiatus talking about it. So it's all NBA and NHL from here on out. Until NFL
Baseball
gets the
starting too.
baseball starting to exactly. So it's all
And I
NHL.
am going on a trip to Miami for the World Baseball Classic to do some in person reporting. So
Yeah, yeah. You should do that. You should do that. I already know the Yankees have kind of got some tough news. I believe one of their players got injured. Dame.
yeah, but at this point in my life, I could care less about the Yankees, so I won't let them affect my mood.
Yeah, all that to lose to the Astros in 6 games or something. But
Basically, exactly 6 games is
I'm
fucking
being nice. I'm
minor.
being nice. Um, yeah, it's rough to talk about baseball when I mean I'm a Mets fan. It's not the grass isn't greener here either. So yeah, it's all NHL, NBA, MLB. I mean NFL will start up soon because of the offseason. I mean, how many weeks until like shit starts happening? I mean, Derek Carr has to make his decision soon, right? So it's
Yeah,
not
I
like we're
think
not going to be talking about NFL soon because like
free
Derek Carr.
agency starts like March 13th or something like that. It's usually like the second week in March.
There you go. So like a month until NFL.
A big thing though that we're gonna find out in the next couple weeks is what the Ravens are gonna do with Lamar Jackson, whether they're gonna
Ooh.
tag him or whatever the case may be. Because I think the tagging process starts like February 20 something until March, the first week of March. So that'll be an interesting story to see what the Ravens do with Lamar Jackson.
I pray, bro. I would salivate for Lamar and the
I'll do
Jets, bro.
unspeakable things, but
Unforgiving
I'm not
things to get.
yeah, unforgiving. Oh God, man.
I mean, he is the ideal target for Jets
Yeah, and
fans. I mean,
him and
it's
Brees
him.
Hall in the backfield is just it's not fair. But
It's not.
I'm not gonna get in. Not gonna let my mind wander to these places that are just gonna break my heart. So
Yeah, we do that enough as Knicks fans, and we learn from
exactly.
it. So I mean, yeah, Jets, please save us. So I think that'll do it for this week. What an episode. Super Bowl analysis, Derek Carr predictions. Jurg couldn't be here, but his presence was felt. Dame, very fun steering the ship with you.
Yes, sir.
Phenomenal job as always with your analysis. Even Jurg's analysis was phenomenal, and it was A1. Even though he wasn't here. But it's alright, because captain's presence is always felt. It's always felt when you're that good, like Jurg. But yeah, socials, somewhat.sports on Instagram. I know we're done with our NFL weekly picks, but I'm pretty sure we'll find something to compensate for it. You can find us on Spotify, I believe, somewhat space sports. You'll find our logo there. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff on YouTube. Yeah, and not much else to say, Dame. It was a fun NFL season. Chiefs reign supreme. Patrick Mahomes runs the NFL. Best quarterback in the NFL. Sorry, Josh Allen fans. Sorry, Buffalo Bills fans. Sorry, Cincinnati Bengals fans. But he is the king. And Jalen Hurts, you made a believer out of me. Philadelphia Eagles fans, sorry for your loss. But also not sorry because we're New Yorkers here. But we're also not Giants fans, so it's kind of a mixed bag on our end. But yeah, what an episode. What a season. What a life. Dame, thank you as always for doing your thing. Jurg, we'll be back next week. To all the listeners listening, if you made it this far, we appreciate you. And until next time, peace.